I didn't even make it to my seat before the tension in that funeral hall hit me like a wall. People whispered, shifting uncomfortably, glancing between my dad, my brother, and me, as if they already sensed the storm brewing. Grandpa's funeral should have been peaceful, simple, respectful. But my father had other plans. He stood near the podium, chest puffed out like he owned the place, one hand gripping the microphone, the other resting proudly on my brother Chase's shoulder. Chase looked smug as usual, like he was just waiting for Dad to announce something that would benefit him. I could feel my jaw clench. They really thought they could get away with this. I slipped into the second row, ignoring the cold looks from certain relatives who'd always believed I abandoned the farm. I didn't care. I wasn't here to impress anyone. I was here because Grandpa trusted me with something none of them knew existed. A folded will sat inside my purse, signed, notarized, and delivered directly to me 2 weeks before Grandpa passed. He had looked me in the eye and said, "Harper, I know what your father and Chase are planning. Don't let them twist my legacy." So I promised I wouldn't. Dad tapped the mic twice, clearing his throat dramatically. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, pretending to wipe a tear he didn't shed. My father loved this family, and he loved the farm he built from nothing. Murmurs of agreement. Someone said, "He sure did." Dad continued, "He always said that the farm should go to the child who stayed, the one who worked beside him, the one who honored his values." My stomach tightened. Chase straightened proudly. Dad took a deep breath, then delivered the line he'd been waiting for. "So, with respect to his wishes, the farm will be passed down to my son, Chase Hayes." Silence. Then whispers. Some nodding. Some side-eyeing me. I calmly stood up. Dad flinched, just slightly, and I knew right away. He wasn't expecting a fight in public. I stepped into the aisle, the heels of my shoes echoing sharply through the hall. Mom shifted uncomfortably, wringing her hands. My Aunt Lynn whispered my name like a warning. I ignored all of them. I stopped right in front of my dad and brother, my chin lifted, my heart pounding but steady. "That's interesting," I said, "because Grandpa told me something completely different." Chase scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Oh, please, Harper. Don't embarrass yourself." I met his gaze directly. "I wouldn't worry about me." Dad leaned forward, lowering the mic. "Sit down. Now is not the time." "Actually," I said, lifting my purse, "now is the perfect time." I pulled out the manila envelope. Instant tension. Dad's face tightened. Chase's smirk vanished. Relatives leaned forward. Mom whispered, "Harper, what is that?" "The truth," I said simply. Dad's voice dropped, sharp and warning. "Where did you get that?" I locked eyes with him. "From Grandpa." A ripple of shock went across the room. "He came to my apartment 3 months ago," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Told me he was changing his will. Told me why." Chase jumped in front of Dad. "You're lying. Grandpa never trusted you with anything." "Oh." I raised a brow. "Is that why he told me you tried to get him to sign papers while he was doped up on pain meds in the hospital?" Gasps. Even Dad's best friends looked stunned. Dad's mask cracked for half a second. "You don't know what you're talking about," he snapped. "I know exactly what I'm talking about," I said. "Grandpa realized you were trying to secure the farm for Chase without telling the rest of the family. So he fired your lawyer, went to a new one, and sent this will directly to me." I held up the envelope like a judge holding a verdict. Chase's voice cracked. "There is no other will." I looked at him calmly. "Then you won't mind if I read it." People shifted in their seats. Relatives whispered. My Aunt Lynn covered her mouth, eyes wide. My mom stared at Dad, searching his face for a lie he couldn't hide anymore. Dad lunged forward slightly. "Harper, I swear to God." "Don't," I said, stepping back. "If you try to snatch this from me, everyone here will know exactly why." He froze. Chase looked lost, angry but scared. I opened the envelope slowly, dramatically, letting the tension hang heavy in the air. I unfolded the crisp papers, my fingers steady despite the adrenaline rushing through me. "You don't want to do this," Dad whispered harshly. "Yes," I said, eyes never leaving his. I really do. Then I turned toward the crowd, toward the people who loved Grandpa, who deserved to know what he really wanted. I lifted the will, and I began to read. This is the last will and testament of Daniel Hayes. I revoke all prior wills and codicils. I leave full ownership of Hayes Acres to my granddaughter, Harper Elaine Hayes. A stunned collective gasp filled the room. Someone whispered, "He left it to her?" Dad's face drained of color. Chase stumbled back like the floor shifted under him. I kept reading, voice strong, steady, unshakable. For her honesty, independence, and integrity, she is the only one who understood my values and respected my decisions without manipulation. My father's knees almost buckled. My brother looked like he wanted to scream. I folded the will slowly, calmly, and met their eyes. "You wanted to talk about loyalty to the land?" I said softly. Grandpa knew exactly who had it. Dad tried to speak, but nothing came out. Chase's mouth opened and closed like he couldn't process oxygen. I stepped closer, lowering my voice, so only they could hear. "You thought I was the easy one to push aside," I murmured. But Grandpa knew better. And so do I. The room watched us, breathless. I slid the will back into the envelope, tucked it under my arm, and walked back toward my seat, head high, heart steady, every step a silent promise. This wasn't revenge yet. This was only the beginning. Dad didn't even wait for me to sit before storming down the aisle after me. "Harper," he hissed, grabbing my arm, not violently, but tight enough to show he was losing control. "We're not doing this in front of everyone." I gently pulled my arm free. "You did this, not me. You opened your mouth first." Behind him, Chase looked like a shaken soda can ready to explode. "This is fake. It has to be. Why would Grandpa give you the farm?" I turned slowly. "Because I didn't treat him like a burden." His face reddened instantly. Relatives whispered behind us. Some frowned at Dad. Others shook their heads at Chase. A few even smiled at me. Small, knowing smiles that said they'd always suspected something wasn't right. Dad lowered his voice, teeth clenched. "You blindsided us. That's not how family works." I raised an eyebrow. "You blindsided Grandpa in the hospital. Want to talk about how that works?" Mom approached then, looking pale but calm. "David, did you really try to make your father sign something without telling me?" Dad didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence said everything. Chase stepped toward me, trying to regain dominance. "You don't even want the farm. You live in the city. You left us to do all the work." "No," I corrected. "I left because I got tired of being told my dreams didn't matter. But I never left Grandpa. That's the part you never understood." For the first time, Chase didn't have a comeback. Dad rubbed a hand over his face. "Harper, let's talk outside. Privately." "No," I said firmly. Grandpa wanted transparency. You heard it in his own words. My aunt stood then, clearing her throat. "I think we all deserve to hear what happened. If Dan changed his will, it's only right Harper reads the rest." Dad turned, angry. "Lynn, this is none of your business." She crossed her arms. "He was my brother. That makes it my business." "Oof." Dad shut his mouth fast. I took a breath and pulled out the rest of the papers. "Grandpa didn't just leave me the farm," I said carefully. "He left a letter too." Chase scoffed again. "A letter? What? Like some dramatic farewell?" I unfolded the page. "Actually, yes." The room went still. I read, "Harper, I know the pressure your father and Chase have put on you over the years. You were always the strong one, quiet but strong. You listened. You cared. And you understood me in ways they didn't. I trust you with the land because you won't sell it out of greed." Chase froze. Dad's eyes flickered. I continued, "Your father is impatient. Your brother is reckless. They think the farm is a prize. But to you, it's a memory. That is why I choose you." My hands tightened slightly around the paper. I lifted my eyes to my father. "He knew you both better than you realized." Dad finally snapped. "This is unbelievable. You're turning your grandfather's funeral into a performance. No, I corrected. I'm respecting what he asked me to do. Mom said quietly, David, you need to stop yelling. People are staring. He stepped back, breathing hard, trying to pull himself together. But the damage was done. Everyone saw him lose control. Chase turned desperate. Fine. So she gets the farm. What about the equipment? The livestock? The money? There's no way he left all of it to her. I flipped to the property distribution page. He didn't leave everything to me, I said. He left you the farm truck and the savings account connected to the cattle fund. Chase blinked. That's it. That's it. Someone in the back muttered, well, that's fair. Chase's pride cracked clean down the middle. No. No, he wouldn't do this. I worked the fields. I stayed. Out of obligation, I said gently. Not passion. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Dad pointed at me, shaking with frustration. You think you've won? You have no idea what you're stepping into. That place takes work, responsibility, leadership. I know, I said softly. And Grandpa believed I could handle it. Mom looked at me then, really looked at me, and her eyes softened with something I hadn't seen in years. Pride. Lynn stepped closer. Harper, what do you want to do? I held the will tightly at my side. Revenge wasn't yelling. Revenge wasn't bragging. Revenge wasn't rubbing anything in their faces. Real revenge was simple, letting the truth do the talking. I lifted my chin. The farm is mine, I said. And I'm going home. Dad closed his eyes. Chase whispered harshly, this isn't over. I smiled, calm and confident. Oh, Chase for you? It's just starting. The argument didn't end at the funeral. It followed us straight into the parking lot. Dad marched ahead, Chase right behind him, both of them whisper fighting while trying not to make a scene. Relatives lingered on the steps, pretending not to watch even though every single one of them was absolutely watching. I walked out slowly, the will tucked into my bag, my heartbeat finally stabilizing. The air felt different, lighter, like Grandpa himself was walking beside me saying, I knew you could do it, kiddo. But the moment Chase saw me heading toward my car, he spun around. Oh no, you're not walking away from this like you're some hero, he snapped. I paused. The will is signed, Chase. This isn't a debate. He ran a frustrated hand through his hair. You can't just move back and take over the farm. You don't know the first thing about day-to-day operations. I shrugged. Then teach me. He blinked, caught off guard. You what? I said teach me. You've been doing it for years, right? If you want Grandpa's legacy honored, then help me do it. Chase let out a breathless laugh. You're serious? Completely. Dad stepped forward, crossing his arms. You're not manipulating my son into doing your work. I turned to him, eyes steady. He's not a kid. He can make his own decisions. Chase actually froze because he'd never heard anyone challenge Dad like that. Ever. Dad's eyes narrowed. You think you can run that farm? It's not some hobby. It's hard work. It's early mornings. It's knowing when to harvest, when to irrigate, when to rotate soil. I know it's hard. I interrupted softly. That's why Grandpa trusted me with it. He knew I wouldn't run it alone. Dad didn't respond. Because he knew that was true. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You spent so much time trying to control Grandpa's decision that you never stopped to think about why he changed it. Dad looked away. Chase swallowed hard. Harper, what do you even plan to do? Move out to the farm again? Live there full-time? I nodded once. Yes. He stared at me like he couldn't tell if I was insane or brave. Mom jogged over then, breathless. Kids enough. We just buried your grandfather. This fighting, it's tearing what's left of this family apart. For the first time, Dad's anger finally dimmed. He stared at Mom, then at me, then at Chase, and something in his face cracked, like the truth was finally sinking in. He wasn't in control anymore, and he hated it. But he wasn't the only one hurting. Mom placed a hand on my arm. Harper, honey, are you sure you want this? Taking over the whole farm? It's a big responsibility. I know, I said, but Grandpa believed in me. So, I believe in me. Her eyes softened. Chase exhaled slowly, finally letting some of the pride drain out of him. Look, if you really want to learn, I'll show you how things work. But don't expect me to sugarcoat anything. I smiled. Genuine this time. I wouldn't want you to. Dad's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Maybe he knew he was outnumbered. Maybe he finally realized he couldn't bully the Will into disappearing. Or maybe he just finally understood that Grandpa didn't make decisions lightly. I turned toward my car. Where are you going? Chase asked. Home, I said. To start packing. He blinked. You're moving tonight? Tomorrow morning, I corrected. I want to be at the farm before sunrise. Grandpa always said the land speaks loudest at dawn. I want to hear what it has to say. For a moment, Chase didn't speak. Then, softly, he nodded. Dad, however, wasn't done. Harper, he said sharply, you're not ready for this. I faced him. I wasn't ready to lose Grandpa either, I said. But life doesn't wait for us to be ready. It hands us responsibilities and expects us to carry them. He stared at me, silent. I added, calmly but firmly, you and Chase spent years treating me like I didn't belong. Grandpa knew better. Now, it's my turn to prove him right. Without waiting for a reply, I opened my car door. Chase called out, Harper. I paused. He stepped forward, guilt flickering across his face. I'm sorry for how I acted inside. I wasn't expecting any of this. I know, I said gently. Neither was I. He nodded once, stepped back, and let me leave. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I glanced at the rearview mirror. Dad stood still, hands on his hips, frustration pouring off him. Chase watched me leave with something between respect and disbelief. Mom gave me a small, proud smile. And somewhere deep in my chest, a quiet certainty settled. The farm was mine. The future was mine. And the real revenge, the kind that didn't need shouting or fighting, was just beginning. The next morning, I arrived at Hayes Acres before the sky had fully brightened. Faint streaks of gold stretched across the horizon, and the air carried that familiar mix of dew, soil, and cold wind, Grandpa's favorite kind of morning. For a moment, I just stood there at the edge of the gravel driveway, staring at the old farmhouse. The windows glowed with the first touches of sunlight. The barn doors creaked softly in the breeze. The field stretched far and wide, endless and alive, just like I remembered. It felt like coming home. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked toward the porch. A fresh set of tire tracks in the dirt caught my eye. Chase. He was already here. I found him leaning against the barn, hands in his jacket pockets, staring out at the fields like they were a map of mistakes and memories. You're early, I said. He didn't look at me at first. Yeah, well, I didn't sleep much. I approached him slowly. I'm surprised you came. He finally glanced my way. I said I'd help. And I meant it. There was no anger in his voice today. No bitterness. Just exhaustion and maybe a hint of acceptance. Thank you, I said softly. He nodded, pushing off the barn wall. Come on. If you're going to do this, you're going to start the same way Grandpa made me start. I smiled. Let me guess. Feed first, fences later. He smirked. Something like that. We walked into the barn together, flipping on lights that hummed softly overhead. The animals stirred, horses tossing their heads, chickens rustling, the cattle lowing from the far end. It felt surreal stepping back into a world I'd run from years ago. Chase handed me a pair of gloves. You remember the routine? Mostly, I said, though I might be rusty. He chuckled. Then let's knock the rust off. We worked in silence for a while, comfortable, steady silence. Something we hadn't shared in years. He showed me small things, where Grandpa kept the new tools, how the feeding schedule had changed, which calves needed extra watch. Things he guarded before like they were kingdom secrets. And now he was giving them to me freely. At one point, he paused and said quietly, he really trusted you, didn't he? Yes, I said. But he trusted you too. You just didn't see it. He swallowed hard. I thought he was disappointed in me. I leaned against a wooden post. Chase, Grandpa wasn't upset you stayed. He was upset you let Dad pressure you into wanting things that weren't yours. He stared at the ground. I know. I stepped closer. You're good at this. Better than you think. But Grandpa wanted the farm run with heart, not ego. You have that heart. I always saw it. He looked up, something emotional flickering behind his eyes. Then why'd he choose you? I smiled softly. Because I didn't want power. I just wanted him to be happy. He let out a breath, long, shaky, but relieved. Then he nodded once. Okay, then let's do this your way. The sun finally broke over the fields then, bathing everything in warm gold. It felt like a blessing, a beginning Grandpa would be proud of. We finished the morning chores together, and when we stepped out into the open fields, Dad's truck rolled slowly down the gravel path. Chase stiffened. Great. Round 2. But Dad didn't storm out this time. He stepped out slowly, shoulders heavy, eyes tired, not blazing. Not angry. Just defeated. He approached us carefully. Harper. Chase. We both waited. He cleared his throat. I was wrong yesterday. The words shocked even the wind. Dad continued, voice cracking slightly. Your grandfather made his choice. And after thinking about it all night, I need to respect it. Chase's jaw dropped. I blinked. Dad. He held up a hand. Let me finish. I pushed both of you too hard. Expected too much. Tried to control too much. And I'm sorry. The apology hit me harder than anything he said at the funeral. He looked at me then. If you want advice, help, anything, I'll give it. Not to take over. Not to interfere. But to support you. If you'll let me. For the first time in years, Dad wasn't standing against me. He was standing with me. I nodded, feeling tears sting my eyes. I'd like that. Chase stepped forward, hesitating, then Dad pulled him into a hug. A real one. One they both needed. And as I watched the two of them, my father, my brother, finally letting go of pride, Grandpa's voice echoed in my head. Family is supposed to heal, not hurt. That day, we walked the fields together, me, Chase, and Dad, talking about crop plans, irrigation, repairs, and memories of Grandpa that made us laugh and cry. For once, we felt like a team. A family. And as the sun rose higher, warming the fields Grandpa loved so much, I whispered quietly to myself, this is just the beginning. Because my revenge wasn't about taking something away from them. My real revenge was rebuilding this family exactly the way Grandpa hoped I would. And the ending? It wasn't just happy. It was home.